Hey, 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 hey. Let's see. Hey, hey, hey. Good. All right. We are live. Okay. Well, I'm excited to be with you guys to share about how to enhance one third of your life. See, we spend a third of our life sleeping. All right. And so we need to make sure we shift some things in our favor to enhance dreamscape, enhance the regenerative night, um, and understand how nutrition impacts that. I know we know that nutrition impacts everything, but we need to go deeper. Okay. So I am here with you to cover the last newsletter. Impacts everything. But all right. Just getting the hang of things, guys. Getting the hang of things. Okay. So YouTube, this is all very new. Okay. Um, I'm excited because it's needed for me to start sharing things. And I am just going to get better at this. Okay. But this is off the cuff. Okay. I just wanted to chime in on the last newsletter like I have promised. I'm late, but I am here. Okay. So this article series is extremely relevant to your life. This video is extremely relevant to your life. Okay. By watching it, okay, in its entirety, you'll become more aware of one of the most energy intensive mystical landscapes of your life, sleep. All right. It's a realm where in which you spend or attempt to spend a third of your life. And we desperately need wisdom to navigate it. You've come to the right place. Now let me help you find rest. All right. So thank you for being here. All right. I understand that your time is valuable. And so I want to make sure that this time that you're spending with me is valuable. And it is, okay? Because we're going to be talking about something that some of you are about to do in the next few hours, which is sleep, okay? And how we can enhance it, how we can shift things, how we can optimize things, okay? How we can find rest in the night. All right. I put a note. If your sleep feels solid, then this article can help you grow in your intelligence on the matter and enhance your ability to aid those around you. It's a win-win. So if you sleep well, you likely know somebody who doesn't sleep well. And if you sleep well, we likely can enhance it even more. Okay. Um, The sponsor of this YouTube is my upcoming multidimensional health transformation. And it's going to be a in-depth cohort, in-depth live vibe where we're going to go deep into all things health, multidimensional health. We're going to cover all aspects, spirit, soul, and body, from the foundation of union with God. And we're getting into biological energy, biomechanics, respiration. We're going to get deep in all of it. So I'd love to have you there. It's going to change your life. Now let's get started. Okay. So eat, sleep, dream, correlations between food maxing, okay, eating more, deeper sleep, and visions of the night. I'll draw from my experimentation and professional experience in helping people sleep regeneratively, eat bioenergetically, and dream optimally in this article series. Okay. So we're on YouTube, right? We're on video. And what I'm doing is I'm taking these newsletters that I am writing and I am doing the video version of them. And you're going to find that there's other snippets and rabbit trails that will go on in the video that, you know, didn't happen in the newsletter, but both have their benefit. Okay. Both have their pros. And if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, you can do so after because I'll have to add it into the description, okay? But you might already be subscribed. So if you are, awesome. If you're not, definitely subscribe because there's going to be more intel in my newsletter and updates that you won't get here on YouTube, okay? So let's begin with the background. Okay, what led me to write about this topic? Well, first off, we desperately need help to enter into rest, okay, to decrease and mitigate stress and regenerate and optimize our body temple. But my background is pretty difficult, pretty dysfunctional, okay, when it comes to sleep. So I say my relationship with sleep has always been very dysfunctional. As a youngster, sleepless nights and bad dreams were the norm. I'd lie awake many a night listening to the radio, become restless, disheartened that I couldn't seem to fall asleep, and eventually make it there around 4 to 5 a.m. after reaching fatigue. If I was lucky, I'd have a favorable dream. Then, after 2 to 3 hours of sleep, it would be a time of rise and gloom. Yeah, rise and shine? Nah, not all the time. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I was an energetic kid and full of life despite sleeplessness, but I wonder how much of my potential was left to the wayside because of my poor sleep. Many culprits were at play here. Diet, excess serotonin, it's not the happy hormone, eczema, topical steroid addiction, cortisol excess from topical steroid addiction. So that cortisol, we know stress, we know cortisol is often high when you're restless. Okay. It's one of the mechanisms that wakes us up. All right. But we don't want it high when we are sleeping. We want it in check. Okay. So a lot of us don't have cortisol in check. And I'm going to share how you can, simple ways, how you can keep stress in check so that you can rest through the night and increase your regenerative capabilities. All right. That are there in the night. Okay. So I said earlier, as a youngster, sleepless nights and bad dreams were the norm. Okay. We can shift dreams via shifting our sleep, our nutrition. Okay. Oftentimes, bad dreams come as a result of low blood sugar. Okay. So if we just have the right nutrients on board, then we can hack dreamscape and we can make it a more positive experience for us as well, which is great. Okay. We all want to optimize visions and dreams. So these dynamics, these sleepless dynamics, these restless dynamics extended into my adult life. And although sleeplessness was an issue, I eventually made use of it. Eventually, I spent hours upon hours praying and meditating. Many a time I'd wait with God, wait on God, in stillness without falling asleep, experience altered states of consciousness, and learn to leave my body. I was infused with so much of God's heart during this time. And as I'm typing this, I'm realizing that all the restlessness was worth it because of that. Later in this article, I write more on that and the good that came of it. So stay tuned. Okay, in the last 3 years, I've delved very deeply into very practical ways to optimize one's overall health. And a lot of what I share is controversial. Okay. Yeah, it is grounded in my academic background in physiology and recent independent research. So 15 years ago, 16 years ago, I was pre-med. I was studying to be a doctor, dropped out, left that, traveled the world, did a bunch of stuff. Okay. I'm grateful for it. Um, but I have a foundation and understanding of physiology, and then it's just my passion and my hobby. So I've delved deep in it over the course of many years. Okay, so I'm not just somebody's I don't know what's the figure of speech, just speaking out their butt. I don't know. I don't know what the figure of speech is. Okay, but I have a little bit going on that helps me to share on this stuff and helps you. Okay. I say my unique path in life has allowed me to connect many fields for a very unorthodox holistic view of life and energy. I'll expand on this when I do an overview of the article on my YouTube channel, which is here, right here. So I gave you a little bit. Okay. So my studies, my background in it. Um, I, if you know me, you've kind of, if you've followed my journey, you know that I have trained with some of the best athletes in the world, that I have studied deep, um, deep in the area of, respiration, all right, nutrition, biohacking, all right, all of it. Okay. And you know that I've also hit rock bottom. I've also lost everything health wise. And I speak from a position of having experienced faulty genetics and um from autoimmunity to topical steroid withdrawal, red skin syndrome, at the edge of life, tremendous trauma and adversity in my physical body. I've experienced it. Okay. And I've had to learn things out of necessity to be able to cope, make it, and survive. All right. And so connection with God is my core. And then all these things, when I'm talking about shifting your biomechanics, your bioenergetics, shifting, inducing biological rest, and all of this stuff comes from many, many years. Okay. And I am a testament to this because um, I'm the testimony. Everything I'm sharing with you, I have had to do in my life, and I've had to shift myself out of autoimmune physiology. I've had to shift myself out of, um, uh, yeah, just really, really bad states. Okay. And I've done things that doctors said I'm not supposed to be able to do, right? Incurable things, curing them, okay, in my body and helping others do the same, which is awesome. All right. So it all comes from that space and that history. Like I say, I needed to discover these truths for my survival. And it has culminated in me learning protocols for virtually anyone to ensure that their sleep and overall health is more optimal. Most of our aging or anti-aging happens during this portion of our life, right? Sleep states. And our ability to travel between worlds is the easiest and most vivid here in the realms and dimensions of sleep. See, some of you or your loved ones cannot get the quality sleep that you need due to excess stress in its many forms: elevated cortisol, adrenaline, serotonin, estrogen, histamine, and endotoxin from overeating allergenic foods, undereating quality foods, low blood sugar, toxic supplements, hypothyroidism, the unsuspected illness. That's the book. Trauma, spiritual warfare, very real. And the list goes on. Okay. Some are very aware of this interference, others aren't. Regardless, it hinders your access to numerous constructive dreamscapes. It also causes a cascade of biochemical events that hinder your God given potential and compromise bodily regeneration. Yep, causes a cascade of biochemical events that hinder your God given potential and compromise bodily regeneration. All right. Some of this interference, we need to solve it, we need to shift it. An inability to fall asleep, wake ups in the middle of the night, destructive dreams, dreamlessness, restless nights, they can be remedied. Sleep and the visions therein can also be greatly optimized. You can achieve a greater depth of rest and soar higher than ever before. You can enter into the promised land of sleep. Intel, like I'll be presenting here and in future articles, should have been part of our school curriculum. The basics of sleep physiology and proper breathing mechanics, amongst other spheres, could have greatly enhanced our journey through life. But redemption is always a portal we can receive from. Let me begin by introducing a vital character in my life, my wife, Carlisle. Okay, she's an example of having blessed sleep physiology, as I say it. I'm striving to enter into her ability to rest. It's awesome. She falls asleep quickly, all right, into a deep and almost uninterrupted rest. Her dreamscape is vibrant, it's consistent, and she regularly recalls her visions, her night visions, with great clarity. Her dreamscape is vibrant, consistent. Um, like I said, she regularly recalls her dreams really well. So the fact that she spends a large part of the day outdoors, tending our small farm, yeah, that contributes to it for sure. We all know the therapeutic, how therapeutic regular contact with creation and the earth, right, is, and how it's essential to longevity and inducing rest. Do you want me to? Yeah. Okay. So quickly, spending time each day making contact with creation is vital for the regeneration of our body. When there's some studies, right? There's a PubMed study talking about how just making contact with the earth can reduce autoimmune physiology. So basically, it can immunolate it can modulate the immune system. Okay, it can bring harmony within the spheres of your biology. Makes sense, right? Connecting with the earth. So the earth, the body temple, gets charged by contact with the earth. Okay, and I say like we have cares, right? Cares. We have things that worries and cares. We have worries and cares in our physiology, and it's inflammatory markers. And so when we make contact with creation, we're casting our cares, our physiological cares, our inflammation into the earth. And the earth is changing, um, changing our biochemistry, right? Changing our electrical body. Okay. It's optimizing it, regenerating it. Okay. So making contact with creation is making contact with the creator, because holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. Okay. I've talked about this way so many times. So sorry if you've heard me talk about it 10 times. Okay. So make contact with the earth. It's going to be helpful for regeneration in the night. I say her breathing mechanics during sleep are top notch. Okay. I'm going to touch on this in a future article, but basically, she is nasal breathing. All right. She's not mouth breathing while she's sleeping. And that's correct sleep architecture, right? Is breathing in and out through the nose. Snoring is sleep apnea. It's interference. It's hurting us, right? We can shift this. I'll get into it later. Okay. And I say, like, even though she's really she's got uh great sleep dynamics, she can still use the protocols I have to ensure an even better sleep experience, especially when she's having an off night. I mean, we all have those. And as you watch, I'm gonna tell you some of those tactics so that you can add them to your wheelhouse. All right. Many wouldn't think this, okay? But the biggest contributor to being able to sleep and dream well, all right, is due to her ability to regulate glucose efficiently. Okay. I wrote, I bet you didn't expect that. Okay. So, what is glucose? All right. For starters, it's derived from the Greek word sweet. Glucose is sugar. You may have been told to stay away from sweet things, aka sugar, but did you know that this also means that you have been told to stay out of rest? All right. It's the body's primary and choice form of energy. All right. Like if you don't have it, it will, like your body will break down your proteins, it will break down your body to convert it to sugar so it has it. All right. It's that desired. Okay. And um yeah, I'm not just making this stuff up when I say it's the nutrient of abundance, of rest, because I talk about that all the time. And when we go without it, our physiology, more often than not, shifts into a state of survival and scarcity. Ketones are upregulated, and we know what that means, right? Many don't. Little story. So I was sitting at the table with a group of people at one of my retreats, okay, called Transcend Retreats. And the ketogenic diet came up. I asked a doctor, an MD, who was sitting at the table, I asked him, what do ketones signal? And he immediately responded, survival. All right. So a diet devoid of sweetness, aka sugar, increases ketones, increases stress, fatty acid synthesis. Okay. It increases stress from using fat for fuel. Okay. When carbohydrates, aka sugars, rest, are in low availability. All right. This results in a danger signal of starvation and a physiological response uh, for improving survival during starvation. I have a reference there, but basically, your body desires sweetness. And when you have sweetness, your body can enter into biological rest. Okay. It literally, sweetness blunts stress, cortisol. All right. Now, no sweetness approaches to healing, like ketogenic diets and stuff like that, um, have had success. There's things like therapeutic ketosis, carnivore, low carb, no carb. However, the physiological process remains. It's still, your body still recognizes glucose as the choice fuel source, all right, and will do whatever it takes to create it. I put gluconeogenesis, all right. Some of you who know that understand what I'm talking about. I already described it. The body will break down its tissues to create, okay, um, sugars, all right, so it can find rest, all right. The body craves rest, not stress. We can utilize stress for sure. Like I've talked about that extensively. We can utilize stress. We can transmute it unto righteousness. All right. We can do that. Like stress is very powerful to work with. We just don't want to work with it all the time. Like we don't want to put ourselves in that state all the time. We want to pull that lever periodically. All right. But most people are pulling it all the time, and they're doing it before sleep, meaning they are not giving their body fuel and the nutrients it needs to rest deeply and to dream vividly and to regenerate. Okay. So that's what we're going to get into now. You probably realize just how important this information is in light of sleep physiology, in light of rest, and why it's important to have the proper fuel, all right, on deck when you embark on your sleep quest and look to optimize the spiritual dynamics at play during it. Many have difficulty regulating and metabolizing the sweetness of life, the sugars of life, the carbohydrates of life, the glucose, right? And therefore, they have a difficulty sleeping optimally. Okay. Negating vital nutrients. Okay. When we don't have vital nutrients in the equation, when we overly consume damaging foods, when we undereat and fast, when we, trauma, right? Age, okay, stress, hypometabolism, dysfunctional breathing, etc. They can all contribute to this, right? To this difficulty in sleeping optimally, and they can hinder our ability to utilize and regulate glucose. But we can overcome it all. I know the way, I know the way, and I want to aid you in your rising and sleeping to new heights and depths. I'm going into the height, length, depth, and width of all of this in my upcoming mentorship, okay, which is the sponsor of this video. um, Before I progress any further, I want to mention a season of my life where I grasped a sense of transcendence over sleep. It was a time of great redemption from my lifelong insomnia pains and an ecstatic saga in my journey. I learned to more thoroughly live from the energy of Christ within and help others do the same. This elevated state of being is part of our potential. Yet it should never reduce the sacredness of the physiological processes, one of them being sleep, and the God given therapeutics of eating. One can be a proponent of living from Christ while also being equally strong in living from the biological process. Both are holy, and one shouldn't be seen as better than the other, in my humble opinion. Both are transcendence and humanity, are sacred and of God. Yeah, I messed up on this earlier in my journey and I favored one over the other. And then I divinely realized that we cannot truly transcend something we don't understand our connection with. All right. Thus, understanding your connection with sleep and the night visions therein and via the impact of food is integral to your elevation into higher, deeper forms of being. I hope this philosophical facet didn't bore you. I know it didn't. All right. Let's progress. Sleep is the most energy intensive things you can do. Okay, listen to that again. Sleep. It's the most energy intensive thing you can do. All right. Yep, that's right. It would be beneficial to prepare for this activity, much like you would nutritionally fuel yourself for a long hike, race, or the like. All right. Some of the worst sleep advice I've ever seen is by well meaning health professionals telling their audience not to eat before bed, to avoid sugar, to forego dairy, and to sleep cold. All right. For many with compromised health and chronic stress, an easy to digest sweet meal slash drink before bed and a hot shower can be the antidote they need to better sleep and dream life. And for many, a sweet beverage with some salt and on their nightstand, like just keeping it on your nightstand, would help you fall asleep more immediately, like way quicker to fall back asleep when you wake in the middle of the night. Okay, this simple snippet will enhance the lives of many. Basically, all right, just having something salty and sweet on your nightstand. It could be a glass of orange juice with some salt in it. Okay, it could be literally a salt and a sugar cube. Okay, and I know some people are like, wow, what are like, yeah, salty and sweet. All right, salty decreases adrenaline, aldosterone. Sweetness decreases cortisol. All right. It decreases stress. All right. One of the reasons we look to sweet and salty foods when we're stress eating or looking for comfort foods, all right, it's because those specific nutrients like the sweetness and the saltiness bring down stress and like they directly reduce stress physiology. All right. There's nothing wrong. When people are, that's another thing. Okay. I didn't plan to go on this, but stress eating is completely okay because the body is stress and it's signaling you to bring stress down. Can you get into breath work and change that a little bit? But what it's looking for is nutrients. It's looking for saltiness and sweetness to bring down stress. Okay. So, yeah. So I said, some of the worst sleep advice I've seen is given by well-meaning health professionals, telling their audience not to eat before bed, avoid sugar, forego dairy, sleep cold. And I said again, for many with compromised health and chronic stress, an easy to digest sweet meal or drink before bed and a hot shower can be an antidote they need uh, to reduce the interference and sleep better and have more vivid dreams. So if low blood sugar states can cause bad dreams, then having good blood sugar during the night can cause good dreams. Okay, I've experienced this firsthand. I used to have to keep something salty and sweet on my nightstand at all times because I would wake up just in way high stress levels because of the chronic pain I was in. I was burning through nutrients at a rapid rate because I was in so much pain. All right. So I would need to constantly have fuel on hand to bring stress down. Okay. So that's important. Okay. And unpleasant dreams, night sweats, nightmares, waking with a pounding heart, frequent waking to use the bathroom. Often, when this happens, when the liver has run out of its sugar stores. All right. All right. Sweetness, the stress can be perceived as the body's need for sugar. Okay. When this low blood sugar state happens, a signal is sent to raise stress hormones to alert you to bring nutrients in to mitigate the said stress. Again, your brain in the deep phase of sleep uses just as much glucose, sugar, as it does in your wakeful and active state. Knowing this is key. This is why I'm emphasizing the fact that sleep is an endurance sport. If you don't have fuel for it, then you'll more likely experience a degenerative, restless, and dreamless night. This would mean that we can cause good things to happen, like I said earlier, at night if we have the right nutrients on board. So bringing fuel in before you sleep, before the sleep quest, will better ensure you have nutrients available for the body to go to and stay asleep and dream. Keeping one of the elixirs below, which I'll get into, on your nightstand and drinking it if you wake up in the middle of the night will help you fall back into deeper rest more quickly. I know this all too well. The available free flowing nutrients will instigate a better dreamscape and state of regeneration. Without the sweetness of life, our body lives in a state of stress. Okay. Some people have gotten used to living in stress. And so when they bring stress down via some of the recommendations I have, they feel like they're groggy or they have brain fog or whatever it may be, but they're just not used to operating from rest. And it's crazy because stress, you can get a lot done in a stress state. All right. But you don't want that state when you're sleeping. All right. You want to be able to mitigate the stress and enter into rest. Okay. So I'm keeping it pretty simple here. All right. But without the sweetness of life, our body lives in a state of stress. The low blood sugar causes a chain reaction of unfortunate physiological events. All right. So milk and honey with a pinch of salt is a perfect example of a quality sleep elixir. All right. If milk agrees with you, dairy is a superfood. All right. And so if it agrees with you, then you might as well utilize it. If it doesn't agree with you, you can build up your ability for you to assimilate and utilize it over time. Okay. Honey, which if it agrees with you as well, is is incredible. It's full of the sweetness of life and other incredible micronutrients and so many cool electrolytes and different things like that, right? So honey is really helpful. Yeah, the promised land is one of milk and honey. Okay, and I say that the promised land of your physiology, right, is one of milk and honey. All right, milk and honey because of the protein, the fat, and the carbohydrates in it with some salt the fat causes the sugar to ride through the night. So it causes a slow release in a sense of sweetness throughout the night, keeping you in a rested state. Because most people, as they age or are under stress, they deplete the storehouse. Or they deplete the glycogen, they deplete the sugars, okay? And then their body signals them to get more, so it raises stress, so you get up and get your feed. That's a lot of people are waking up or having nightmares because of low blood sugar states. And there's some health influencers that are telling people not to eat before bed, to have your last meal or drink by 6 p.m. All of this stuff, or to not have carbohydrates or whatever. It's just rubbish, right? Because it's just biochemistry. It's not about a diet. It's not about um, being plant-based or being carnivore or being animal-based or being this or that. It's not about diet. We need to transcend the diet. Okay. Like we desperately need to transcend diet. All right. To find rest. Okay. Like God gave us food. Okay. We want to utilize it and it's therapeutic and it can change your life. Right. So I've had to rebuild my physiology nutritionally, supplementally, all right, biomechanically through movement, uh, my respiration. I've had to rebuild all the structures of my biology. Okay. And I'm still just scratching the surface, but um, I'm just learning how to enter into rest, entering into biological rest, right? Strive to enter into his rest. So I'm learning at a biological, physiological level. Sure, the psychological goes with it. Like as the body goes, the mind also goes. And as the mind goes, the body goes. They're connected. You can't just focus on the mind and expect everything in the physical to go well. I know a lot of people think that. And unfortunately, there's people propagating that. All right. The body is insane. It's incredible. And it can set the mind. In the spirit can transcend it all. But we've been given this manifold nature. And there every aspect is holy, it's sacred. Let's steward it, right? So I say the fat within the milk takes the sugar on a slow ride through the night. This will buffer against wake ups, bad dreams, and general restlessness due to an updraft in stress hormones that come with low blood sugar states. Read that again. All right. I've already said it, but the fat within the milk, right? We'll take the sugar on a slow ride throughout the night. This will buffer against wake ups, bad dreams, and general restlessness due to an updraft in stress hormones that come with low blood sugar states. As I've stated before, the promised land of nutrition is one of milk and honey. It truly induces biological rest, and I'm speaking to the nutrients within it, not just the foods itself. All right. It's also important to note that quality dairy is a superfood. Okay. I'll get into how to better digest and assimilate it in the future. All right. Another potent elixir that induces rest. I just spoke to a friend because he was having some issues with milk right now. And I said another potent elixir that induces rest is the combination of orange juice and salt. I add gelatin or collagen into mine sometimes to just increase GABA. Um, yeah, and just overall rest. All right. And if orange juice agrees with you, which for a lot of people it does, and for some it doesn't, okay, you just have to have it has to be a sweet, not tangy. There's a difference, and it affects your physiology differently. If it's sweet orange juice from ripe oranges, it's restful. If it's tart or tangy, unripe, okay, oranges, it's not going to quite have the same effect. Okay. But orange juice is like an incredible elixir. It has so many different um, uh, naringin, like apigenin. It has just all these incredible flavonoids and vitamins. Okay. And it actually can treat endotoxin in the gut. It can reduce toxicity in the gut, which is awesome. So the orange juice is got this similar component. It's got this sweetness factor. We have the gelatin and the collagen. Okay, and we have the salt. So it's a really good beverage. I mentioned it in depth in my last article on nutritional biosynthesis. It's a potent rest-inducing beverage. It's also something I have like I try to have a glass of orange juice in the morning. Like it's a potent it's like it stimulates thyroid production really well. And part of our battle is low thyroid function. So OJ can really be beneficial. Okay. Um, I also say a well-sourced ice cream that has no toxic fillers is also a great option. So just something basic that has milk, cream, sugar, vanilla, or whatever. Okay. Sugar isn't bad. Like cane sugar, white sugar, it's not bad. If you look up the chemical structure of natural sugar and you look up the chemical structure of processed white sugar, it's the same chemical structure. Okay. If you study chemistry or biochemistry, like it's like the same chemical structure. Now, natural sugars from fruits have other vitamins and other minerals, right, within the fruit. But the sugar itself, it's the same structure. Okay. Um, so having a sip of this is Mexican Coke with regular sugar. And did you know that caffeine or and coffee mainly, but coffee in small amounts, caffeine can be sedative. And in large amounts, it can stimulate. All right, you guys know how what I think about coffee. It's a superfood, it's a nutrient, and I talked about this in my last YouTube video on food maxing coffee and how it increases perception. Check that out. Okay. So you guys saw me just drink a little bit of Coca-Cola. That's like I consider it medicinal. I would choose it over almost any green drink on the market just because I have ruminant meat in my diet. So therefore I'm covered. Like, um, and so if I didn't eat meat in my diet, then I would opt for like a greens drink sometimes. Maybe not. Actually, I don't think I would, to be honest, just because for me, it aggravates. Okay. For a lot of people I work with, a lot of times the green drinks that they're drinking, it's what's causing some of their issues. So when they remove it, they feel much better, which is interesting. But they have to make sure that they're getting the nutrients from other sources. Okay. Which is important. Okay. That's another topic. Okay. So you must understand that sugar is anti-inflammatory. It's an anti-stress nutrient. Sugar has been being blamed on something that's not a sugar issue. So many health gurus have misled the masses by demonizing sugar, avoiding the true culprits that cause biological rest. As I mentioned earlier, sugar is the nutrient of abundance. Without it, we start to overly leverage fat for fuel, and this directly activates stress physiology. All right. If our fat was primarily saturated, then this wouldn't be as much of an issue. But because of the fat experiment that began in the early 1900s, humanity's fat composition has changed. Burning fat for fuel now more thoroughly suppresses thyroid and energetic function. And these harmful fats that now inhabit our tissue make it more difficult for us to enter into rest because it's causing us to not be able to metabolize the nutrient of rest, which is sugar, which is the carbohydrates. All right. They're blocking our ability to derive energy, all right, from these energy rich, this energy rich macronutrient, right? So you see, some people are demonizing a whole macronutrient, carbohydrates. It's like God given. Like, uh, you can't kid yourself. You can try all the sugar alternatives out there, but you can't trick your physiology and your biochemistry. When you have sweetness, you will feel stress go down. A lot of people will go get tired. Okay, that's because they're riding on stress. All right. So the true culprit behind the physiology of diabetes, all right, that's not a sugar issue. It's an ability to metabolize sugar issue. There's a glitch in the biology. It's not able to derive and live off of the sweetness of life. It's not a sugar issue. It's an ability to use it as fuel. So what has caused the body not to be able to use the sweetness of life as fuel and step into rest? All right. It's large in part in our modern day due to environmental factors, and one of those environmental factors is in the food system. And it's something that most people are consuming in large amounts, which is excess polyunsaturated fats or vegetable oils, oil seeds, all types of interesting things like consuming in excess. And that's causing a downgrade in physiological function, a downgrade in the function of the energy body, the thyroid body, all right, and its ability to metabolize sugar as fuel and enter into rest. I'm repeating myself, but sometimes repeating myself is helpful when we're talking about some of these things, especially if some of these things are new, all right? If you have a hard time metabolizing and storing glucose, sugar, then it'll take time to repair. But when you do, it'll change everything. All right. Many are suffering from this disability due to toxins that are directly inhibiting our ability to utilize sugar, the nutrient of abundance for fuel. You can remedy this. I did. All right. And I'm helping others remedy this. So, a highway to health would be avoiding excess unsaturated fats, but that's hard to do because they're everywhere and it can take several years to replace the harmful fats in your tissue with the healthy ones. Another sponsor of this video, my upcoming multidimensional health transformation. I'm going to go in depth on this. Okay. In the meantime, you can be more conscious about what fats you use at home, swapping out unsaturated for protective saturated fats. Again, they'll help you better utilize and regulate the sweetness of life. And you can enact a more intentional and powerful blessing over all your meals when you're out and about. It's not about fear, it's about stewarding the body temple. It's about wisdom, all right? Because I'm not trying to strike fear into people. I'm just trying to help people use wisdom and steward their bodies better because we perceive through the body temple, okay? And so if we're constantly bringing things in that's dampening our ability to see and perceive and hear and understand, we want to shift that. Okay. If something's inhibiting our energy, inhibiting our expression of our body, causing us to not be able to show up in this world more powerfully, we want to shift that. Right. Yeah. So this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Like I said, gaining clarity on how to better steward your body temple. Don't get overwhelmed and let this intel diminish your power. Instead, use it to better rule and reign in life. I'll delve more deeply into the neurobiology and metaphysics of sleep in a future article. Until then, understand how connected everything is. Reinforce the reality that your dreamscape is deeply impacted by your nutritional choices and adjust things accordingly. Begin to see sleep as an energy intensive process that demands sustenance and augment it into rest. Realize that eating is a God given therapy to induce rest and allow us to better enter into heaven. Okay. It's an honor to share my passions with you, and I hope that my work will inspire a greater breakthrough in your journey of self and God discovery. Rest, Arun. All right. And after I asked people if they read this article entirely, and I asked them to reply. I got a lot of replies. I think as my newsletter grows more and more and more, if I ask people to reply, my inbox will be so flooded, it'll take me days to get back or read it all. But it's really good. Like I'm trying to put them into folders to make sure I read ones that I haven't read and respond to them. But it's good. It's really good. Okay. I actually created outtakes. All right. And if you saw my newsletter, like there was times like, I'd write snippets, I'd write part of the newsletter, and I'm like, it doesn't feel right. And I would just delete it. And then after a while, I'm like, oh, let me just copy some of these, paste them into like a notes document and just save them for later. Maybe I'll use them. And then I just took a few of them and I put it in outtakes. Like these are what didn't make it into the article. And then I asked if people liked that, and I got a lot of good responses. People, some of them were like, I got more from the outtake than I did from your article. I'm like, oh gosh. Um, uh, but just closing out that article, okay. Sleep is energy intensive. Okay. We need fuel. Okay. So take in fuel. You can take communion, sure. You can take in milk and honey. Awesome. Okay. If you can digest dairy, well, awesome. If honey is not allergenic to you, wonderful. You could try the other one, orange juice, a little bit of salt. Okay. Organic orange juice, definitely. All right. And I say that because as many people are like, oh, I don't have to. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, it's just laced a lot of times with pesticides and stuff. And so we just want to minimize any potential bleed through with those things, but just whatever. So have your orange juice, have salt, have some collagen. Okay. Um, Collagen might be safer than bone broths, okay, just because bone broths go through like 72 hours, sometimes 24 to plus hours of extraction, and some of those leach metals into the bone broth, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So some people are overly consuming both bone broth, and it's kind of hurting them. I've had some people experience that. But just bring fuel in, like bring fuel in so that your sleep quest can be optimized and that you can completely change a third of your life. All right. Buffer against low blood sugar states by bringing nutrients in that cause you to be stable through the night and therefore have a more regenerative sleep and a more mystical landscape within dreams open up for you. Um, so I put in the outtake, one of the detriments of the health influencer space, okay, is bad general advice that can traumatize portions of their audience. Okay, like every individual has a different expression within how they relate to different foods, different experiences, whether it be fasting, whether it be cold exposure, whether it be meat, whether it be vegetables, whether it be any of the things I'm saying, like coffee, all of these things like that. There's so much, it gets so complex. Okay. And then we get some of this general advice, right? Like we get influencers say, uh, death by sugar. Like this is like a really popular YouTube video is like death by sugar. I want to create a YouTube video called life by sugar. Okay. Because it is actually more congruent. It's more true. Because part of our brain development is not just from fats, but it's from sugar. Okay. Like an infant in the womb, there is the brain development is enhanced when the mother has adequate sweetness on board. Brain development is optimized. Okay. So we got these health influencers saying things that are just hurting people. Okay. Like people saying to fast more often. Okay. For some people, that might be helpful. And for others, it could cause an autoimmune reaction. Fasting and the stress of it can cause whatever illness they're facing to get worse. Okay. So could eating. because sometimes people are eating allergenic foods and it's irritating their intestine and it's causing inflammatory responses. Okay. And so then they fast and they feel relief. So they think fasting is what's helping them, but it's actually the removal of the allergenic food. I think most people who experience a positive from general fasting on a biological level, not a metaphysical level, but generally they're experiencing a benefit because they're not introducing those allergenic foods like they were before. So it's not the fasting, it's the absence of allergenic foods. So if they were eating well and non-allergenic foods for them as an individual, because everyone's different, then fasting would be hurting them, right? So we get people saying avoid dairy, causes inflammation. Like they have no idea what they're talking about. Because in some people, sure, it causes inflammation, and those who can't digest dairy. But in the individuals who can digest and assimilate the superfood of dairy, it's causing a massive reduction in inflammation. All right. It's causing people to sleep deeply, regenerate more rapidly, all of it. So it's not a one size fit all. Like another one saying, telling people to have their coffee black or without sugar. That's like asking to put like, yeah, to just rev your engine without fuel like crazy and burn out your car. That's pretty much what it'll do. Coffee is a superfood, but it needs fuel to make sure it works properly in the body. If it doesn't, it'll hyper leverage stress. You'll increase your stress physiology, which it'll feel good. It'll feel really good because stress feels good sometimes until it doesn't, until it ages you and breaks you down. I know from experience. Okay, so have your coffee. And I get into this in depth in my last video. So check out my last video. I'm not going to talk anymore about that. Some people say eat a lot of vegetables. And I'm like, man, some of the people I work with, when we remove a lot of vegetables from their diet, they start to get better. Okay. And some people, they just need to prep their vegetables better so that it can work well in their body. All right. Some people say only eat meat. And then for some people, it's like a godsend. It changes their life, right? But then they think that that's the highway to health. And then later they have issues. A lot of them have issues, not all of them. But when you take away a macronutrient like carbohydrates, you're asking for issues at some point just because of the role that God gave the macronutrient for the human body. All right. Sometimes people are eating too much meat and it's increasing stress on the body. Now, meat is easier to digest than vegetables. That's common sense. But we've been told a lie saying it's not. Vegetables are far harder for the body to digest. It's far more work and energy intensive. All right. Meat is easier to digest, but sometimes if you overeat muscle meat and don't have gelatinous cuts of meat, then you can actually add a lot of stress to the body. And it increases, yeah, some of the more inflammatory amino acids like tryptophan and stuff, like increases serotonin, which you don't want to do. All right. So take cold showers every day. Like, man, I used to be an instructor in the art of cold exposure, and I had to take years off of it because I had to rebuild my metabolism and my ability to maintain a stable body temperature. All right. You don't want to do cold exposure if you have a low body temperature. If you're not able to hit the 98s, like you don't want to do cold exposure. It's like you're asking for just biological issues. Okay. But some people who are experiencing anxiety, depression, and mental instability can get their life back through cold exposure. All right. And because they need it to stimulate their neurochemistry and their biology. And even if they're experiencing a low body temp, like it can be life changing for somebody. But long term, you want to get the body temp up. Otherwise, it's just a downgrade in physiological function. Okay. But there's the psychosomatics, there's a psychology of it as well. The mind over matter. I trained that deeply in my life, trained with the best in the world in it. I know the benefits and I know the detriments of it. Okay. So, like, there's just all these people who are saying, do this. but health is very bespoke. It's very specialized. It's very custom per individual. I found that out more and more and more through working with more people and helping them change their life, right? Change their health, change their life, all right? Health is your greatest asset, right? We need to focus on that like we're focusing on wealth. All right. So that's yeah, like some like pe there's so many different things, people eat fermented foods. Like sometimes fermented foods are what when removed can decrease an autoimmune reaction. Like for me, that's the case. Like I need to make sure I don't have too much fermented foods. All right, because of the reaction I experience with it. Now I won't always be that way. Sure, I want to be more resilient. I want to govern everything, of course. Yeah, but I'm just working with what's going on and I'm helping people do the same. So we just want to realize that sometimes it's not going to work, right? This thing that this one health influencer says, do this, it's going to cause you chaos. And for some of you, it's going to cause you order. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's just nuance. Okay. Also put to the degree that your metabolism is good, being able to store glucose as glycogen in your liver, sugar, will dictate how well you sleep and how deep and restorative your sleep is. I go, many have a difficult time regulating and metabolizing the sweetness of life. All right, I'm going to get into more tactics on how to shift that in my course and also in future YouTube videos and articles for free. All right. The night is another outtake. The night absence of light is very stressful on the body. All right. Did you know that? All right. One of the reasons we're sleeping at night is because night absence of light is very stressful on the body. So it's a good time to hide in a sense or to it's a great the physiological process of sleep serves us because of the stress of night. All right. In winter, with shorter days and low light conditions, the stress of night is even more increased, right? And night, and especially winter nights, are often hard for those who have low metabolic or energetic function. It's hard to keep warm. It's hard to sleep. Okay. It's stressful. All right. We just want that sunshine. Today, here where we live, the sun was out. Everyone's outside. Everyone's talking. Everyone's acting so different, right? Moods are just optimized. It's not just about vitamin D, but light itself is highly therapeutic. I'll get into light therapy in the future as well. Okay, well, I really hope all of this recorded. I really hope so. And I can't see who's watching and in the comments right now. But I hope if you're on right now, you found it helpful. And I would just love if you can like leave comments, interact with it. I'm gonna get off, edit it a little bit, meaning just upload it back up, and then love for you to come back, check out the description and all the links and different things to my newsletter, to my upcoming course, and all of it. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this. And until next time, I'm out.